Attention chiropractors, slayers of subluxation, unleashers of the imprisoned impulse. I am Dr. Anthony Pellegrino from ChiroEdge, and welcome to this week's episode of the Chiropractic Research Breakdown, where each week we break down the most relevant chiropractic science and philosophy to empower you with the ammo and certainty necessary to change your community from the inside out. Today we are going to be going over a case series. Not a case study, but a case series. It is entitled Resolution of Breech Presentations, Confirmed by Ultrasound Following Chiropractic Care Using Webster Technique in 5 Women. A case series in the Journal of Pediatric Maternal and Family Health, published just last month in March. It's actually written by Dr. Robert Mulcahy and Dr. Emily Mayo, who actually, Dr. Emily is somebody who I went to school with, who graduated with me or a quarter before me at Life University. I actually reached out to her because this is a cool case series. I was super excited about it. So I'm just really, really pumped about this today. It's been a fun week for me. Last week, myself, my wife, and I went out to San Francisco for the AMPT conference. My practice, myself, a huge reason why this organization, ChiroEdge Me in Chiropractic, exists is because of the amazing support that I've gotten from the AMPT community, specifically the leaders there who have really pushed me to deliver my truth and my message out to not only my community in practice, but have really challenged me to deliver it to chiropractors like you. So I'm very grateful for them, and nothing but love and praise for those guys over there. We've also released a bunch of new awesome stuff and videos, and just gotten a lot of really good feedback regarding some of the stuff that we've put out from our ChiroEdge service. So if you guys want to get information like this case series we're going over right now in a handout format, in a social media format as well, specifically designed for you to deliver to your community, we've been getting great feedback on this handout in the office this week. But you guys can do that by going to ChiroEdgeMedia.com. We have a 2-week free trial for you guys on there. If you guys love this stuff, if you guys love research, if you guys like delivering that type of information to your community, if you think that letting your community know about the actual research behind what happens when we correct subluxation, if you guys think that is important, then join us at ChiroEdgeMedia.com. So jumping into this case series on breech presentation, ultrasound, and Webster Technique, with some background information necessary, 3 to 4% of pregnancies result in breech presentations, 3 to 4%. The term breech trial Lancet study, published in the year 2000 in the Lancet, said that C-sections were the safest way to deliver breech births. Since that study in 1970, for example, C-sections for breech happened at 14% of births. 14% of breech births, and they're currently 90 to 95% of individuals who deliver when breech, of women who deliver when breech, 90 and 95% are going to be delivering via C-section, and in some institutions it is 100%. They will not deliver a breech birth or breech baby, not via C-section. Now, I believe in emergency medicine, and I believe in emergency care. I believe in emergency C-sections. And I keep hearing me say emergency. Unfortunately, I believe that C-sections are presented in hospitals or in that setting as having little to no risk. But research says that there's an increased risk of cardiac arrest, wound hematoma, anaesthetic complications, venous thromboembolism, and hemorrhage requiring hysterectomy. There's also an increased risk. If you've listened to or watched recent podcast episodes, we reviewed increased rates of subluxation in the upper cervical area and breastfeeding complications following cesarean section. Those published out of Europe. And then if you guys have been listening for a long time, I think this is even before we had an audio-only format and we only just did Facebook Lives. I did a Facebook Live a long time ago about research. I think this was even with me driving in a car. It wasn't even a full setup. So go on the ChiroEdge page, facebook.com/ChiroEdge. See if you guys can find that. If y'all are interested, put it in the comments and I'll find it myself and post it there. But I reviewed research out of Denmark that actually looked at what basically ICD codes because Denmark has centralized medicine. They're able to give these huge studies where they can look at and just say, hey, everybody who's been born via C-section from the dates of 1974 to 2012, what diseases are they more likely to get versus the general population? And they found that children born via C-section had significantly increased rates of allergies, asthma, autoimmune issues, juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, just these huge things. Even leukemia, they had increased rates of leukemia, which is, I mean, just nuts. But when you think about by missing, this huge part of coming through the birth canal, of having the fontanelle suites, of stimulating the flow of cerebral spinal fluid, of encountering bacteria in the birth canal to stimulate the function of the immune system, of being covered in vernix, like all these different things. You think about cutting that out, literally. I mean, it's crazy, but it just makes sense. And we're presenting things like cesarean section of having little to no risk whatsoever. And yes, in an emergency type situation, which is, I believe, what they were trying to talk about in the Lancet study, there's a greater chance of baby being alive and mom being alive, which is amazing and huge and important in an emergency situation. We can take being sick for the rest of our life. It's way better than not being alive, right? Being sick is better than being dead, But it's like, outside of those emergency cases, are we being honest? Okay. So because of that, studies like this are important, because nobody's saying, I'm not saying that we should not have emergency medicine. What I believe, though, is actually understanding what can we do to put us in the best place possible, the best position possible to not need emergency medicine, to not need emergency C-section, and certainly not to plan one. Alternatives here are ECV, or external cephalic version, and there has risk of umbilical cord entanglement, abruptio placenta, premature rupture of the membranes, and preterm label. Where chiropractic plays a role is that subluxation of the sacrum may lead to difficulty during the birth process by causing pelvic misalignment, uterine nerve interference, and torsion of certain pelvic muscles and ligaments, causing an overall aberrant effect on the uterus and preventing the best possible birthing position. Webster Technique was created in 1978. Sacral analysis is done when prone, looking for side of posteriority and rotation of the sacrum. Because of the importance of ligaments like the uterosacral ligament and the round ligament, which attack the sacrum and pelvis, we look at that sacrum to make sure it's positioned properly. We adjust with appropriate force and vector. We recheck to make sure that adjustment held. Then we flip supine and relieve tension on the round ligament. Now, what's really important here, guys, is I want to be clear, is that because we do have more people who are allopathically minded listening to and watching this podcast more recently, which is great. And I do appreciate many of you guys who do that simply to learn more about subluxation correction, simply to learn more about a less allopathic way of viewing things. One of the things I want to be clear on is that Webster Technique is not designed to turn breech babies, okay? If you are a subluxation slayer, a principled chiropractor, and you refer to things like Webster breech turning technique, please stop it. Just stop it. It so incredibly frustrates me when I get a referral from somebody in the community for a mom who's just like 38 weeks pregnant and just wants to get adjusted just to turn down breech baby, okay? That's not the goal of the chiropractic adjustment. Okay, that's not the goal of Webster Technique. The goal is to actually create the proper structure to have the best birth possible, right? It just so happens that oftentimes when we correct that, baby turns the head down. But it's so frustrating to me. And the only reason we would be getting those referrals is because we haven't properly educated on what it's not about fixing a bad birth. It's about creating a good birth. Okay, and it's just a huge thing there. So we're looking at 5 cases here. Right? 5 cases that they're publishing on. First case is a 40-year-old woman who is 36 weeks pregnant, 7 adjustment, confirmed by ultrasound, baby has turned head down from a breech. Case number 2, 30-year-old pregnant woman, 30 weeks gestation in breech position. She's been breeched since from the weeks of 16 to 30. She also had headaches from 8 years old a few times a week. She avoided taking Imitrex and Excedrin while pregnant, but she was told by her OB to take Tylenol with codeine sparingly. 4 visits over 2 weeks. On the 3rd visit, Webster was not necessary because it was negative. But after the third visit, she saw her OB, who said the baby had turned head down and her headaches had also resolved, as a side note. Case number 3, 24-year-old woman, 36 weeks gestation, breech position, low back pain. 7 visits, goes to our OB, baby's head down. 35-year-old woman, 31 weeks gestation with gastritis and low back discomfort. 10 adjustments, baby's turned head down. 30-year-old woman at 32 weeks with breech position, 3 visits, baby's head turned down. Webster was negative and remained negative following the 4th visit because they continued checking her, obviously. Now, how does this happen? They propose a mechanism. The bony pelvis is connected to the uterus via several ligaments, the most important being the uterosacral and round ligaments. The structure seems to be designed to allow for vaginal birth when the pelvis is properly aligned and no other complications exist. Because relaxin is pregnant during pregnancy, stretching of the tendons and ligaments happens. It is possible, which is great for birth vaginally, but also allows the structure to be more easily compromised and prone to subluxation, especially given modern day lifestyles. Sacral misalignment can cause a shift in the entire pelvis, pulling on the ligaments attached to the uterus and creates tension. It is this tension that allows for a decrease in space, as well as leading to an increased likelihood of breech presentation, and that correcting this bony misalignment and therefore tension on the muscles and ligaments is what allows for ideal positioning. So this is really cool because these women here who were in a breech position were able to avoid, I hope, doesn't give the details on that, but an emergency C-section or a planned C-section for breech positioning. They hopefully were able to avoid it, or at least for breech positioning because they were no longer breech. But these are all referrals into this practice late in the game. The importance here is shifting from just saying we want to help women who are breech, babies who are breech, to saying, and yes, it's great. It's a much better option than C-section and ECV to actually just allow their body to do the work and turning head down. But how much better would it be if we can continue to get women checked just for the sake of getting them checked, because we know, breech or not, that subluxation is going to impact pregnancy. It's going to contribute to dystocia, difficulty during pregnancy and labor. It's just going to impact. So I want you guys to take this info, have the ammo, have the certainty to say in the mom who is breech, right? Or whatever, or is having a difficulty pregnancy and labor, be like, I want you to get your butt here as often as possible so I can check you for subluxation so I can adjust it. Not because we want or need baby to turn down, because I want you to be in the best place possible for this to happen. If you claim the baby's going to turn head down, guess what? Get ready to have your license removed, right? Because you're practicing obstetrics, okay? Just let them know that our whole goal is to allow them to have the healthiest, happiest pregnancy possible, okay? And they deserve every opportunity to let their body be in the proper position, to let it correct. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. It just means they deserve that opportunity. That's what it's all about. That is not allopathic. That is vitalistic. It's just about creating health versus fighting sickness. This is the stuff that gets me fired up. I got lots of pregos on the schedule today, both breech and non, both breech, previously breech, that are no longer. And all of our education is saying, hey, it's our job, it's my job to correct the subluxation because it's going to impact your birth. It's going to impact your pregnancy. It's going to impact your 4th trimester. It's going to impact you before. We want to correct this so that your body can have the best position possible. If baby turns head down, and they often do, guess what? We celebrate it. But it's not chiropractic and it's not Webster's technique that made that change. It's them. And they deserved that the entire time. Cool. This was fun. Again, guys, I'm Dr. Anthony Pellegrino from ChiroEdge. We're handing out information like this in the office this week. I'd love for you guys to join us. ChiroEdgeMedia.com. You guys can jump on a 2-week free trial. Hope you guys got some value on this today. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to put it in the comments. If you guys are on the Facebook page, on the Facebook Live, in the Subluxation Slayers group, or you guys can shoot me an email. If you guys are listening on the audio version, please subscribe, rate, and review to the podcast. The more people we have subscribed, the more ratings, the more reviews we do have, the better chances people have of actually finding us and getting this information. We do have tons of people reach out to me personally and just, thanking us for this information, for people who are in those schools that don't really talk about subluxation, don't talk about this, that don't talk about how lives can change. And that this is kind of what helps them get through that and know that the way they want to practice is the right way and know how they can change lives. So that's really cool to hear. And the more people can hear about this, the more we can graduate some principal docs who are ammoed or armed with the ammo and certainty necessary to change the health of the community from the inside out. Thank you guys. Go slay those subluxations. I love you all.